This lesson on multiplying and dividing integers. The rules for multiplying integers are exactly the same as those for dividing, and that's why we can tackle these at the same time. So what are those rules? Well, the first one is that a negative times a negative will always give you a positive answer. Second rule is a positive times a negative will always give you a negative answer. And remember, I can swap out the multiplication with a division, and that would not make any difference. The rules are exactly the same for division. To make these rules even more useful, because we don't always have two digits that are being multiplied or divided, sometimes you have 5 of them, we can boil it down to this. If you have an even number of negatives being multiplied, for example, 4 negative numbers, so let's just say 1, 2, 3, 4. If you have 4 negatives being multiplied, the answer will be a positive. If you have 6 negatives being multiplied, the answer will be a positive. If you have 96 negative numbers being multiplied, the answer will always be a positive. So for as long as you have an even number of negatives, they will always give you a positive. Now, if you have an odd number of negatives, let's just maybe do 3 of them, the answer will always be a negative. If you have 5 of them, the answer is negative. If you have 97 negatives being multiplied or divided, the answer is still negative. So bottom line, even number of negatives always gives you a positive. Odd number of negatives always gives you a negative. Let's go ahead and try some examples. The first question is negative 2 times 5. Well, that's an odd number of negatives, so it would be negative 10. The second question is negative 3 times negative 4, an even number of negatives, so simply positive 12. The third question, we have 3 negatives, so we know the answer is going to be a negative. We just need to multiply them. Negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3, and 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. We already put the negative there, so I'm just going to add a 21. The fourth question, we have 4 negative numbers, and that would be a positive answer. So 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. And then I'm going to bring down the rest of these numbers that we haven't multiplied yet. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Then I'm going to bring down the negative 2 that we haven't multiplied yet. And then the negative 6 times the negative 2 gives us a positive 12. So as you can see, 4 negatives, because they are even number of negatives, give us a positive answer. As I mentioned, the rules for division and multiplication are exactly the same. So for the next question, which is 12 divided by negative 3, an odd number of negatives means that we are going to end up with a negative answer. So negative 4. The last question here is a negative divided by a negative, so we know that the answer to this will be a positive. So negative 30 divided by negative 5 is simply positive 6. So to quickly recap, a negative times or divided by a negative will be a positive. A positive times or divided by a negative will be a negative. But then we took that a step further and said, if you have more than 2 numbers being multiplied, you just need to see how many negatives you have. An even number of negatives always gives you a positive answer. An odd number of negatives always gives you a negative answer. And so that concludes this lesson.